The tension between resistance, productive procrastination, and how to know when it's time to ship. It's that time of year, isn't it? You know, the time where you look back at the last 12 months and reflect on all the things you didn't get done. Please don't tell me I'm the only one. Now, for me, the biggest thing I didn't manage to get done this year has been getting my upcoming book, Return to Real, over the finish line. Now, originally, my goal was to publish in time for a fall 2025 release. Let's just say that proved to be a bit ambitious. My amended goal has shifted to a spring 2026 release. But if I'm to be honest, the book is a project I've found myself procrastinating on for the last few months. In fact, I haven't made much tangible progress since finishing the first draft of the manuscript earlier this year. Now, it's not for lack of caring. Instead, in many ways, it comes from a place of caring maybe too much. More on that in just a moment. Now, on the one hand, I've had my hands full in the second half of this year. September and October were nearly all consuming between coaching 2 soccer teams and the high school application process for my son, including touring and interviewing at least a dozen schools, not to mention a busy harvest season on our farm, as well as hosting 2 in-person masterminds and 3 client VIP days here at our home in Vermont. November and December, I spent more than half the time traveling, including trips to Mexico for Tony and Dean's Zenith Group Mastermind, 2 weeks in Austin with Front Row Dads Live, Lifestyle Investor, Tiger 21, Prime Elite, as well as a trip to Hilton Head, South Carolina for baby bathwater to deliver keynotes, interviews, fireside chats, and several private sessions. And on top of it all, in the middle of it all, we somehow managed to start a new business with our brand new Return to Real agency, wherein we've already started building strategic content ecosystems for our first dozen category of 1 clients, which is taking off like a rocket ship right now. Note, while our January 2026 agency client cohort is already 100% full, we're opening up spots for February 2026. If you'd like to apply to be considered for one of the few spots that we have remaining, please complete the application that we'll link to along with this episode. I will be personally reviewing applications this coming week, and we have plans, by the way, that currently start at $2,500 a month, but that price will be increasing depending on when you catch this episode. So it's not like I've been sitting on my hands, and if you continue to indulge my string of excuses here, much of the work I've been doing, for example, the dozen or so keynotes and interviews I've done in the last few months, has helped me further refine my core Return to Real thesis, supporting evidence, and ultimately what to include and what to trim from the content of this book. But all that said, at some point, you just need to sit down and write the damn thing, or in my case, ruthlessly edit and finalize the manuscript. As Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, author of The Little Prince, famously wrote, "Perfection is achieved not when there's nothing more to add, but when there's nothing left to take away." And while perfection has never been my goal, I do have a big vision for what I'd like to accomplish with this book as I continue to chisel away at the manuscript. And as we explored back in issue number 60, inside a room with 40 million copy best-selling authors, in the words of James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, who, with 25 million copies sold, knows a thing or two about writing and selling books. There are many things in life where good enough is good enough. Writing a book is not one of those things. Which brings me to the focus of today's issue, which is the power of productive procrastination. One of the things that we do as a family each night is watch a TED Talk together before bed. We rotate each day where each member of the family gets a chance to choose a talk on a topic that they're interested in. After the talk, we then have a brief discussion, each sharing our biggest insight and a question that's emerged from the talk. One of the presentations that we recently watched together was a TED Talk Adam Grant delivered in 2016 titled The Surprising Habits of Original Thinkers, with over 23 million views. In it, Grant explores how the most creative, original thinkers have a very specific relationship with procrastination. Grant's core argument is that productive procrastination isn't a form of laziness. Instead, it's a very critical process of idea incubation. The most original thinkers are often quick to start but slow to finish, and that lag time is where the magic happens. When you begin a project so it's active in the back of your mind and then step away long enough to let it simmer, Your brain has room to make the non-linear connections that it can't make when you're rushing to lock in an answer. In other words, procrastination is a vice for productivity, but when done in moderation, it can be a virtue for creativity. Reassuring, no doubt, for those of us who are quick to start but slow to finish. But the question is this: how do you balance this productive procrastination with the need to eventually ship? Which takes us to the truth about creative work and windows. Whether we like to admit it or not, every creative endeavor has a window for release, from starting a business to publishing a book. Windows open and windows close. And if you miss your window, chances are the window will never open again. Painful, but true. Now, it's not to say that a new window for something different won't open up, but the window for this thing, the thing you've been working on, the thing you've been obsessing over, the thing at the center of your productive procrastination will not be open forever. Look, market conditions change and creative energy eventually wanes. Which brings us to the question that every entrepreneur and every creator must eventually ask, which is, how do you know when it's time to ship? In Adam Grant's TED Talk around creativity and the power of productive procrastination, Grant layers on a second, equally useful distinction. Originals, as he calls them, aren't fearless or effortlessly confident. They feel doubt like everyone else, but they're better at keeping doubt pointed at the idea instead of at themselves. Self-doubt, i.e., I'm crap, shuts you down, whereas idea doubt, this manuscript just isn't there yet, energizes you to test, refine, and iterate. Pair that with one more truth. Originals are often more afraid of failing to try than they are of failing outright. So they speak up, ship drafts, run experiments, and generate a lot of bad ideas in order to uncover a few great ones. Something we explored in detail back in issue number 27, Building Your Strategic Content Ecosystem. If you're interested in diving deeper into this topic, we'll make sure to provide a link to that newsletter issue in the description with this episode. So how do you know when it's time to ship? Well, I believe the answer is this: when resistance rears its ugly head. Now, here's what I've come to believe, and this is where the work of Stephen Pressfield has been a gut check voice for me over the years. Adam Grant may give us permission to incubate, to stay quick to start and slow to finish, long enough for the idea to ripen. But Pressfield reminds us that there's a thin line where incubation quietly turns into avoidance. In War of Art, Stephen Pressfield names that force resistance, the shape-shifting inner opponent that will use anything, perfectionism, fear, I'm not ready, I just need one more pass, to keep you from finishing. The resistance is lurking at every corner, whispering sweet, soothing songs in your ear, convincing you you're not yet ready. So how do you know when it's time to ship? Well, here's a simple litmus test that I use. Is my procrastination truly producing new insight, or is it simply producing new excuses? Like all the reasons I mentioned earlier for why I've been too busy to finish my book these last few months. If the delay is helping you see the work with fresh eyes, clarifying your argument, sharpening the structure, making the piece truer, that's Grant's productive procrastination doing its job. But if the delay is mostly you rearranging commas, rereading the same section for the 37th time, or getting ready to get ready, that's no longer incubation. That's the resistance rearing its ugly head, which leads to a simple rule of thumb. If your next step requires real-world feedback, which it often does, then ship. The market, the reader, the audience is a better editor than your inner voice. This is the whole message should come from your market, not from your mind. That's central to the entire ask method. If you can state the premise clearly and the remaining work is mostly refinement, ship. Refinement has no natural finish line. This is the whole art is never finished, only abandoned idea attributed to the great Leonardo da Vinci. If your idea doubt has quietly become self-doubt, then ship. Because the only antidote is motion. This is the whole motion breeds clarity, confidence, and conviction that we've explored together in many, many past issues of the Digital Contrarian newsletter. By the way, in my humble opinion, Pressfield's blunt rally cry for moments like this is perfect. Remember one rule of thumb. The more scared we are of a work or calling, the more sure we can be that we have to do it. In other words, the closer you get to the finish line, the louder the voice of the resistance becomes. All right, consider this your pep talk going into the holiday week next week. As you make your plans for the next year, as you set your goals, as you decide where to redouble your efforts, that thing that you've been productively procrastinating over, your window for release may be closing faster than you may think. So my call to arms for you is this. Now is the time. Get your butt in gear and ship. Okay. Have a very Merry Christmas, a very happy Hanukkah, a very blessed Kwanzaa, and on this winter solstice, the day that I record this, the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, may the rebirth of the sun fill you with joy and lights, for even the darkest of nights ends with a new dawn. Okay, I'll leave you with that for now. Remember to hug the ones that you love, and until next week, I wish you all my best. Oh, by the way, one last thing. I wanted to give you a quick heads up that I will be hosting a live town hall event on January 8th, my first of the new year. I'll be sharing my biggest predictions for 2026, including a theme that I see emerging that I'm calling the Great Bifurcation, a force that I believe will shape everything over the next 12 months. The event is free to attend, but it will be limited to the first 300 to join, and I do expect to fill up. If you'd like to get on the priority notification list to reserve one of these spots, you can subscribe at thedigitalcontrarian.com and reply to the email you receive with the word predictions. We'll make sure to send you a link to register for the session. This is one you will not want to miss. All right, take care, talk soon, and I look forward to seeing you there.